In this video today, we're going to be working with custom exports in our Rapattoni MLS system. So the Rapattoni MLS system is basically a database of all of the properties for sale, and it's also a historical database of everything that's sold, ever been on the market, and there's a wealth of information in there. We're going to be working today with custom exports. Now, all of you are familiar with MLS flyers or MLS data sheets that basically have all of the information you could ever want on a given property. Now, a lot of time that is great, but sometimes we don't need all of that information, and we might be doing some analysis of some areas, of some properties, of some companies, and we only want certain fields. We don't want to have to print off an entire MLS data sheet. So that's where custom exports comes into play. Basically, a custom export allows you to extract just certain data fields from a property, and you can put it on a spreadsheet for further analysis and manipulation. So what we're going to do first is along the top menu bar, we're going to get started. We're going to set up a custom export. So you're going to go to Admin, and once you highlight on Admin, there's an option here for Custom Export Setup. Let's go ahead and select that. Now you'll see I've just been redirected to a blank page. I don't have any exports set up, so the first time you come in here, if you've never done this, you'll see a blank page like I do here. If you have set up exports before, you'll see a list of all the exports that you've previously built. So along the top menu bar, there's two options. There's Save and Create Export, and this is basically where we're going to be working or moving from step to step. So to start, we're going to go ahead and click on the green plus or the Create Export button. And this redirects us to the Create Listing Information Export Layout. Now the first field is Name, and this is what you're going to want to name this so that when you're running a search and you decide to export data, you know exactly what information you're going to be extracting based on the name of what you create this export as. So for this one, let's say I want to do a list price to sales price comparison for an area, or maybe for your office if you wanted to see how your office performs in pricing inventory. So let's do listing price, sales price comparison. Okay? The display order is essentially just a number between 1 and however many you have here on your list. So when you create a bunch of exports, if you wanted to reorganize them, you could do so by changing the display order. So 1 obviously is going to be the first on the list. If you had 10 of them and you had one indicated as 10, that would be on the bottom of your list of all the exports. The file format you want to leave in just Excel or .csv, as you see reflected here. There are some other options, but these are really advanced options, and you're only going to really need to be working in Excel. So always leave that as Excel. Include field names. These are essentially the header rows so that when we get this Excel data sheet, we can see the header row of exactly what the field is in that column. And then include pictures, you want to set to no, because really we're just working with raw data. We're not working with any media or pictures. So I want to go ahead and hit save up here in the upper left hand corner now to move to the next step. And it'll take a second to load, but once it does, now you're going to be redirected to a field where we need to build the layout for this export. So on the left, in alphabetical order, you see all the available residential fields. So these are all the fields of data that an MLS data sheet has or that somebody could fill out when listing a property. On the right are the selected fields for our database or for our export here. So what we want to do is figure out, okay, if we were called this a listing price to sales price comparison, so let's get started building this. So the first thing that I'm probably going to want to put is the status. Now, the search that I would typically be doing for list price to sales price comparison would be of just closed properties, okay? But for the sake of showing you a better example, I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple fields and show you how this can be used for multiple things. So if I come down to the S's, you'll notice you need to be careful once you get there and don't just click the first thing that you see that says status, because there's multiple statuses here. There's regular just status, and that's going to be active, pending, cold, expired, withdrawn. There's the status code, there's the status color, the status comments, the status date, the status display. You can toy around with these and see what you get in your spreadsheet and figure out what fields work best for you. For this example, I'm going to select status, and then I'm going to click add. Now the next thing that I want to put in there is I want to go ahead and I want to put in who the listing agent is. So let's go down and we want to go to the L's. Let's see if I can find it. So there it is, listing agent name. And if you notice, there's a whole bunch more of listing agent. There's listing agent phone, listing agent name, number, listing agent phone, email. You can get a whole bunch of different information from in here. So let's go ahead and do listing agent name, add. And then if we wanted to do it for multiple offices, we could. But in this example, let's just go ahead and build this out saying we were a qualifying broker and we wanted to see our list price to sales price for a certain office. So listing agent name, status, and then why don't we go ahead and grab list price since we're already in the L's. So we'll go to list price, click on add, and then let's also get sales price. So we'll go down to the S's. There we go, sales price. And now I also want to go ahead and let's see. If I wanted to include who the selling agent was or who the selling company was. So let's say these were all our listings, but I also wanted to know what agents or what companies were selling our listings. I could. So let's go selling office name, add. And then I'll do selling price. I have selling price display, but I actually want to do selling price. So this will be a perfect example. So now that I've made a mistake and I've got sales price display and selling price, I want to go ahead and remove sale price display. So in order to do that, I click on it here and I come over to the remove box and remove it there. Okay. So now I've got some basic information here on my export, but it's really not in the order that I want, because starting from the top to bottom is how these columns are going to show up from left to right when I'm building my spreadsheet. So let's kind of get started manipulating this. So I'm going to click on status and I want that to be the first item. So I can use these move up or move down buttons right here, and I can just move status all the way to the top. Okay. Then I want the listing agent name, which is fine. And then let's say I want the selling office name. I want to move it up one more. So I've got status now, listing agent name, selling office, list price, sales price. Now I might also want the sale date. So I could go in and look for, I believe it's under closing. Let's see if it's under closing. And you're over time going to have to just get used to what fields you want to look at in here. Actually, you know what? While we're down here, let's get days on market, because that might be another piece of this that we'd be interested in seeing. So I'm going to grab days on market, add, and I want to move that down right there. And then I need the selling date, I believe is actually what it's under. Let's see here. Yeah, there's selling date, okay? And then add, and I want to move it down to the bottom. Okay, so I think I'm done here building out this export. So when I run a search, I will then basically click on exports, and then what I will get when I export data is an Excel spreadsheet that has status, listing agent name, selling office name, list price, sales price, days on market, and selling date. So let's just go ahead and click on save. And now that export has been saved, okay? So if I go back up to admin, custom export setup like we did to start, you'll notice I now have one export in here. It's called listing price to sales price comparison. I can revise the rules, which is this page. If I wanted to rename its order on that list, I could. But let's go back into that. I could revise the layout. So if there was something that came out on my spreadsheet that I didn't like or I didn't use or I had the wrong field, I could click on Revise Layout and I could come back in here and revise the fields that I'm exporting. Go back in here one more time. I could copy the export. So if I wanted to make a duplicate but just has a couple changes, what I could do is call it Office List Price, or let's call this Company List Price, Sales Price Comparison. And now if I hit Save, I would basically go in and just add one other field if it was a different field here. So if I wanted to keep the same layout consistent, but I wanted to add a couple of other things. So, just as an example, I'll grab two regular, just normal things here. So I'll go agent first name, add. And now if I hit save, and this is just an example, if I go back to admin custom export setup, you'll notice I have two, and I just essentially copied what I had already done and quickly made another one, which is kind of nice. If you make a mistake altogether and you want to get rid of one of these, all you need to do is hit the check mark for delete over here and then hit save, and that'll be gone. Okay? So now let's jump real quick into the setup for how we run an export and how we do this. So if you go to your searches, you can use any type of search. So let's just do a standard search. And let's say I want to run active areas. We'll just run, a random, let's say we wanted to do a specific area, or if we just leave that blank, it'll do all MLSs, okay? So if I do that, we look like we're good. If I wanted to run it for just my office now, I would need to know my office ID. So I'll do my listing office ID right here. So if I was doing it for the Paseo office, I would put my listing office ID here, and I would hit, I think I have my statuses wrong though. Let's go back up. So because I'm doing list price, sales price, I don't really need to do active. I want to do closed, and let's say from last year. So 1/1/12 to 12/31/12. So let's do all of last year for that office and hit search. And it comes back with 419 transactions, residential closed transactions. Now, up along the top, a lot of you are probably used to using the reports tab to go and print out MLS flyers or whatever. What we want to do here though is we want to select exports. But the first thing you need to do is you need to make sure you have all the properties selected that you want to include. So if I have some properties in here I didn't want to include, for whatever reason, I could uncheck them. If you want to quickly check everything or uncheck everything, this box right here where it says residential and then the total, if you click that box, you'll notice it'll highlight every selection here. Now there's one, this is page 1 of 9 pages. If you make the mistake and check this box, this is only selecting all of the properties on the first page, not all 9 pages. In order to do all 9 pages, you need to select this box right here. So let's go ahead and go to exports, and then you'll notice listing export option. If I click that drop down, there's some pre-made defaults that are here. But you'll notice down underneath the dash line, here's the exports that I have in my system. And since I only have one, I see listing price, sales price comparison. So when I click on that and hit submit, you'll notice now it spits back a file for me that I can download, and that essentially is my custom export built of the list price, sales price comparison of the fields I selected when I built my export for 419 properties. So now I can move on to step 2, and that'll be in the second video of how to manipulate and take a look at this data and organize it so that it's useful information. I hope this helps you on your way to getting set up with custom exports, and as always, you're more than welcome to email me with any questions.